Welcome to the Totally Honest Cooking Show. My name is Mark. Today we are doing a shrimp chowder. It was originally going to be a she crab soup, but I cannot find canned crab at the grocery store. I think that the mass die-off of crabs that is happening in Alaska might have impacted the supply chain for that, and that just might be a thing of the past now. Regardless, we're going to soldier on. This recipe is based on a clam chowder recipe that J. Kenji Lopez Alt did. The link to that is in the description. And rather than just redo his recipe, I thought, let's see what we can come up with. I was either going to do a potato and ham chowder, but I saw these little guys at the store, and I thought, my other option is to embrace the tiny shrimp and see what this tiny shrimp life is about. Now, if these are so tiny that they're not a delectable soup, Jerkins will let us know about now whether any of this was worth our time. But I'm still going to do it because I feel like the fundamentals that you get from this is great. So we're going to start by mincing up an onion. This is a medium onion, and, well, not mince. We're going to dice it really, really small. Mincing, I feel like, requires more time than I usually spend on anything in my life, really. Now, I did have COVID for about 2 weeks. I still have the cough, and it sounds like somebody is moving in across the hall. All of these things are fine, but just keep in mind that some sounds I won't be able to edit around. Or at least Jerkins won't be able to edit around. Jerkins is a content genius, but there's only so much altering reality we can do. Once we've minced our onion, we're going to come over to the stovetop. We're going to heat this on medium. We're going to melt up 2 tablespoons of butter. And we are going to saute our onion in a butter. Pretty simple, right? Okay. That butter's about half melted, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in my onion. Give it a stir with my favorite spoon, Bernie. Then we're going to cut up a celery stalk. You can use a stalk, you can use 2, I don't really care. You're just gonna make it sticks. Get your fingers out of there. Don't do what I just did. That was stupid. Also, if anybody has a go-to knife class online, that would be lovely. Okay, and we're just going to make small dice from this. I don't like these particularly large on this sort of application because I just don't. Stop and give that a twiddle. Actually, I'm going to turn that down a little bit because we don't want these to brown. The goal here is to kind of sweat them and heat them, but not brown them. You don't want them melty. You know how that you can kind of make onions that melt in your mouth cook? You don't want that. Okay. There we go. We're going to go ahead and throw these in too. Except for the 3 that I just dropped on the floor. Okay. Next up, we're just going to peel and dice our potato. Don't forget to tend to your pot every now and then. And this is your basic building block for any cream soup that is not like you take an immersion blender to it. If you've watched my potato soup video, you can make a really good potato soup by doing many of the same things that I'm doing now and taking an immersion blender to it. The starch in the potato acts as a thickener, thickens the soup right up. But here we're not doing that. Here we're just making a chowder. Now the difference here being that you have some sort of stock. In this case we're using clam juice. If you decided that last week we were going to start with head on tail on shrimp when we made those shrimp fajitas, you totally could have made a shrimp broth that we then did not use for the tacos, and then you could use that as your starter for your chowder here. I was feeling kind of tired that day. I had associated it with travel because I traveled for the holidays, and then I realized the next day that I in fact had COVID, so that explains why we don't have a shrimp stock. But that's just fine, because for most seafood stock you can substitute clam juice, at least as far as I've been able to tell. There are some professionals and semi-professionals that do watch this show. Please let me know if that's wrong to say, but I've had good luck with the clam juice with the she crab soup. So since I can't make that, we're going to try it for this. Now, when it comes to thickening your chowder, you've got a couple options. You can use the potato starch to thicken it. In his video, Kenji says that sometimes that leads to other steps, like having to take the solids out of the soup with a strainer and blend them and blend the soup a little more, because you're likely to break the chowder with the potato starch. But it does work as a thickener, just like it does with our potato soup. Or you can just use a ton of flour, and that's what we're going to do. Okay. Just a little more water than you need to cover them. And we're going to set these to boil. Now the trick here is that we're not boiling them all the way. We're boiling them about halfway. Now we're going to add our flour. Let me get in the right place. Now we're going to add our flour and make our roux. I'm going to use a heaping 1/4 cup of flour, because we want to make that thick kind of chowder. 3 or 4 C's there, right? So that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to stir this around in here. The goal here is to cook the flour, because if you cook the flour smell dissipates and the flour taste goes away. If you don't do this properly, then you wind up, if you don't do this properly, you end up with a kind of raw flour flavor that you don't really want. So we're just going to give that a minute, let it cook. It might even be done already. Then I'm going to add a tablespoon of Old Bay. This isn't in every kind of soup. I would use this in the she crab, and I'm going to use it with the little shrimp because I feel like it adds a certain something. The clam chowder, I feel like the clams really are the center, and they really bring a lot of flavor. Since I've never had the tiny shrimp, I don't know where to go with that. Also, I forgot to salt my potato water, so we're going to go back and do that now. Just a couple pinches. I'm going to turn the heat up on that to high, let it boil. While that's working, I'm going to slowly add this bottled shrimp stock. The idea here is that by adding it slowly, it lets you kind of see where the lumps of flour are, and allows you to kind of break them up as you apply more. Can you smell that? It already smells good. Now you'll note that we're not seasoning a ton as we go, because that Old Bay will do a lot of work. And also, I'm not sure how much salt is in the brining liquid in the tiny shrimp. Okay, so you see that we already have the base of a soup here. Now we're adding 4 cups or 1 quart of milk, and we're going to go slow with that. And at this point, I'm going to go rinse off Bernie because he's got some flour drag on him. Okay, and there we go. Our milk's in. We're going to go ahead and stir and test our potato. You're looking for kind of a medium cook on the potato, like toothiness. Kenji said al dente when he did his video, and I would say that's how you would describe that. You don't want it cooked all the way through because it's going to finish cooking in the actual soup. Now let's take a look at our tiny shrimp. I have never bought tiny shrimp before. This may be a surprise, and this might have been a terrible idea. We'll see. We'll learn together. How tiny are we talking here? Oh, that's not too bad. I can live with that. Okay, I'm just going to dump these in. Now, keep in mind there is salt in this water, so if you're trying to go low sodium, maybe drain it off. I don't know. Potatoes are boiling more than I'd like, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that down. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the second thing of shrimp. I think I am going to skim this one off. I skimmed the liquid off the second tin of shrimp because it's starting to look kind of packed in there. There we go. Now I'm going to turn the heat up on this, get it going to a simmer. Now I'm going to check these potatoes again. That's where I want them. They're cooked but still raw, if that makes sense. That's how I would describe an al dente potato. That means your teeth go through it like it's a cooked potato, but it's still not at the level you'd like to serve it at. Okay. Now, if we've done our job right, this will thicken up and we'll be able to get through it without having to add any more flour. We still might end up having to make a flour slurry and add more. I did try to adjust it such that there would be enough to simmer. So I'm going to let that simmer and then I'll be back. And also at this point, we can go ahead and add 2 bay leaves. So we're just going to pop 2 bay leaves in there. And then we're going to try to bring it to a simmer. Okay, it's been simmering for a little while. And it has thickened a little bit. I'd like it a little thicker than this, but I'm not going to mess with it with the flour and stuff because I think it's going to be delicious regardless. I'm just going to let it simmer a little bit more, see if I can thicken it just a little bit more. I was hoping more for like the thick chowder, but that's okay. It will be delicious regardless. I will probably bump up the flour ratio from a rounded 1/4 cup to 6 tablespoons, and that will probably be enough. I'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll see if this is reduced more, and then we're gonna plate and consume. I am gonna add a little bit more pepper here too. I tasted it. The Old Bay is good in this. I do like pepper though. Okay, seems like the soup is more or less as done as it's gonna get. So I'm gonna go ahead, kill the heat, and serve. Now the downside to this is that those tiny shrimp are really tiny. Look at that. But I feel like this will be great warming. It is cold today, as it often is in winter. So this will get into those bones and let you really warm up. So I'm gonna go ahead, plate this up real nice. You will notice one good thing about that Old Bay is that it gives you a nice little color there. I'm gonna add a handful of these. And because, like I said, I like pepper on this. There we go. Okay. There we go. Experimental tiny shrimp soup. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. I'll let you know what we thought in the overlay right now. In the meantime, like, subscribe, click that little bell, and I'll see you next Wednesday in the next video. Bye.